25, semi-retired, feeling on top of the world. I hadn't really been sleeping for a year very well, like at all. Yeah, I ended up basically ending up in the hospital with a diagnosis of Crohn's colitis. While I'm in the hospital, bad goes to worse because I get diagnosed with like myocarditis, which is inflammation of your heart. This like flare I was having from the autoimmune expands to another major organ. So now I'm like basically flaring in two major organ systems. And then worse goes to even worse because I have a third major organ system that starts flaring up, and it's my lung. They basically just couldn't stop the inflammation. In my opinion, now connecting the dots looking backwards, I don't think I was given the right toolkit. And this is one of the other problems in healthcare. To hammer, everything's a nail. The incentives basically make it really challenging for us to get holistic care that's necessary. So in my case, they basically only gave me two options. Number one was pharmaceuticals. There's these pharmaceutical classes of drugs called biologics, and they cost like $15K a month. They're really expensive, like Humira, Remicade, and Entyvio. You probably see the commercials for them. A lot of Americans are on them. They basically tried every single one of these on me and didn't really work to stop the inflammation. Then they're like, okay, well, all we can really do now is surgery. Never once was I asked, hey, what is happening in your microbiome? Let's test that stuff. Never asked. Never once was I tested for my nutrient imbalances, right? My vitamin D level, I only found out after I got out of the hospital, it was like 12, right? Like that's ridiculously low. I'm there for 3 months in the hospital dealing with all this, pharmaceuticals or surgery. And I was so desperate. Imagine yourself being in the hospital for 3 months. You've lost 60 pounds. I like walk around, 160, 170 before all this. I was down to like 113. And meanwhile, this was during COVID. So I was in an ICU ward, was not allowed to have visitors. I was like trying to order supplements and stuff from Amazon and like get them shipped to the counter. And the nurses literally were like not allowed because of COVID protocol to go down and pick it up. So it was kind of, the whole thing was just a mockery. Only after I get out of the hospital and they have to remove these major organs, I now have to like get, multiple surgeries to basically cut out, half my stomach all the way down to my rectum, like permanently altering my anatomy for life. I find out that 75% of big health system revenue, 75% of the revenue comes from surgeries and pharmaceuticals. About 50% of that is like surgeries themselves, right? Which makes sense. The other 25% comes from pharmaceuticals themselves. So those like biologic drugs we talked about, they cost like $15K. The hospital's making at least 50% margin on those. You'd think that like all the money would go to the drug makers, but not really. Healthcare systems, like they have vertically integrated infusion centers, meaning like they own the place that like infuses the drug in you, so they're making a margin from that. Oftentimes they have really cheap prices through like they're called like 340B pharmacy options, or they have like kickback programs with the pharmaceutical companies. So they're actually making like considerable margin on all these drugs. So like, what does this mean? It means they're economically incentivized to want to do the treatments that are going to make them the most money. And in my case, I made them almost $2 million worth of a hospital bill from all this stuff. Now contrast that with like a holistic protocol. Maybe it would have costed like 10 to 15 grand. It was a comedy of broken incentives, and unfortunately it's led me here, but I also like to say fortunately, because anytime you deal with something that's like that traumatic, or you're faced with your own mortality, it permanently alters the lens through which you view life and you view reality. So here I am still standing. And, it's why I want to dedicate the next 10, 20, 30 years to trying to change some of this and doing it through the vehicle of the company that I recently started.